Hi everyone, welcome to the next set of Dear system updates. So when myself and Callum get together and review some of the latest updates that have gone into the Dear system. So the last one we did was in November. So how you doing, Cal? You all right?
Very well, thank you. Yeah, very well. Excited to go through some of the new features that we haven't updated in a while. So yeah, it'll be good to go through these.
Yeah, excellent. So for those who don't know, my name is Matt Flanagan. I'm MD of Bluehub, and we help businesses work with Dear, either fully implementing it or improving their current use of it or integrating it. And with me today is Callum. I'll let you introduce yourself, Cal.
Yeah, so my name's Callum. I'm one of the ERP specialists at Bluehub. I've been here for around about 4 years now. So I work on all of our new implementations, existing implementations, and just generally everything to do with the product itself. So yeah, spend a lot of time with Dear.
Cool. So we're going to, well, a little bit snowy around the UK on the day we're filming today, so we're in separate locations. But yeah, the last one we did was in November, so we'll get straight into it. We've got half a dozen or so of the features. We're just going to have a bit of a run through and give some context around. So we'll get stuck in. So best new features from Q1 2023, and then we also want to have a look at some of the stuff that's coming into the 12th of March release as well that hasn't yet landed but will be soon. So let's have a little bit of a chat around the Shopify data retention. Now, this has sort of been floating around a couple of months now on various forums, social media. I've seen a lot of people looking for some of the clarification on what this is. So do you want to give us an overview of your view of it and what's going on with it?
Yeah, so I think it's actually a policy that's been around for quite a while with Shopify, and then Dear have just been a bit late to the party and sort of updating their integration to actually meet that. But it's actually a mandatory requirement that Shopify have put in place and all of their partners actually have to adhere by. It's actually something Dear has done for 2 years, but you had to previously do it manually. So you'd have to go into each customer record and anonymize the information. So this release here essentially meets the data retention policy set by Shopify, where after 30 days, you have to remove any sensitive information after when you no longer need it. So any sales that come through from the Shopify integration after a period of 30 days, Dear will go through, look at all those sales orders and essentially remove any sensitive information. So on the right hand side, we've got a list of what that information is. So on sales records, it will do contact number, contacts, phones, billing and shipping addresses, and also email addresses. And then also for any customer records that have been created for those customers, it will remove addresses, contact names, phone and email addresses. If you use Shopify consolidation, then you probably don't need to worry about this too much. It will just remove addresses, because with Shopify consolidation, it just brings over the name as Shopify customer. So this is more if you've got all that information in Dear will just go through and anonymize most of it.
Okay, well, thanks for the clarity. And yeah, as you can see there, the following confidential data, because I think that's been some of the misunderstanding as to what that actually means and what's been removed. But okay.
Yeah. And it's worth pointing out, you can actually do that manually. You can actually go to a customer record and you can actually, I think it's synonymize in the top right-hand corner, and you can actually just remove all sensitive information. So this now does it automatically if you're on Shopify. So that's good to know.
Cool. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So create accounts in Xero from Dear. I think this is linked to the nominal codes that we have to put into Xero, but I'll let you explain more. I think we were quite happy with this one, had arrived on the scene when we were talking about it previously.
Yeah. So if you've watched any of our other videos on our channel around the Xero integration and all the different surrounding topics in there, you'll notice that if you ever want to set up a new nominal account and have that pulled across to Dear, you have to go into Xero, you have to create the account, you have to come back to Dear, and then you have to start a sync, and that'll actually sync all your chart of accounts. Then you can go through and map that to the correct products, customers, or even just in the general account mapping page. Whereas now Dear have just updated the API on their integration. So you can now go into the account mapping screen within reference books, and you can actually create a nominal code or an account from that screen, and that'll actually update Xero. So it's not game changing, but it saves you having to go from one system, fill out your 2-factor authentication in Xero, then come back. So it saves a bit of time.
Yeah, so it's removing a few clicks,
Yeah.
And all of that
Yeah.
type of thing. But yeah, anything that makes life easier, right, for these types of scenarios is always going to be good. Now it says impact areas POS application, but we think that's a bit of an error. We think it's just across the DIA system. Anytime you map into Xero, you've got the opportunity to do this, or the available or the functionality to now do that. Cool. Okay, good one. Co-manufacturing improvements. Now, like co-manufacturing is like a bit of a growth area, to be fair, in DIA. We're seeing more and more come about with this from its initial inception when they brought it in. But yeah, do you want to talk us through this one?
Yeah, so co-manufacturing is actually quite a big topic in a lot of our features that we'll go through in a second. So co-manufacturing, I mean, a lot of businesses are doing co-manufacturing today because it's a way to reduce costs because you can outsource your operation. And co-manufacturing in DIA language is anywhere where you would free issue raw goods or you would sell goods to someone else. They would make an item with that and then actually deliver you a finished item. So there's lots of different terminology, but that's what it is. And that's what DIA has as co-manufacturing. As standard, when DIA first released it as part of the production BOM in DIA, you had two main ways that you could manage co-manufacturing. You have what's called sell components or buy/sell mode. That is where you sell the raw materials to your co-manufacturer, they build a finished good, and you buy the entire product back off them, okay? The second option is transfer components, also known as transfer mode. That is where you free issue the goods, so you transfer it to their location, they build a finished item, and then you purchase the finished item back from them. So those are the two modes that exist right now. One of the issues that we were having, and I imagine a lot of other people, which is why they brought this release out, is some people, while they outsource their operations, they don't actually have a physical manufacturing location or where they actually do things themselves. And although they free issue, they buy it from somebody and they just go straight there. It never comes back to them. So DIA have now added what's called a procurement mode rather than sell or transfer. And it just makes the process of you buying those raw materials, those being drop shipped straight to your manufacturer, and then you buying your finished item much easier and less clicks. You could actually do it before, but it was a bit long-winded. And to be honest, it didn't really work. Whereas with now the procurement mode, you can do that in a little bit more detail. Obviously, that's a feature that I can't just talk about and everyone's going to get it straight away. So that one will be a follow-up video to add to our manufacturing series where we can go in a little bit more detail. But yeah.
Yeah, I know that we've had some internal conversations with the team, haven't we, about like trying to understand how this is going to work and what that means. So yeah, it does take a little bit of thought and time to digest and then run it through a few times before it settles. But again, that's a good move, obviously, as well, to be fair to DIA, listening to some of the issues that people have in and then coming up with some functionality that enables people to use it in the way. And like you say, could be done before, but it was a bit long-winded, so it's good to get the efficiency of having the right functionality there to do that. So cool, good to see. Shopify Master Data. So I know this has always been like a bit of a mute point as to, you know, what's the single source of truth and where does the data lie and what gets updated first. So do you want to give us a bit of a run through of this one?
Yeah, so people always asked us this question and there was never really an answer, to be honest, because it would work in both systems and then it would be like an informal decision that you would make. Okay, Shopify is going to be our master, so we'd just update Shopify, or we'd say DIA is our master of our data and we'd only update DIA. But in theory, you could do either or because it didn't really, there wasn't anything stopping you.
And I imagine with big teams, right, as well, where you've got different teams managing the e-com, different teams managing the internal ops, that could change depending on the type of product. So yeah, it's not always that clear cut, is it, to be fair?
Exactly, yeah. And so with this release, there's now a simple drop-down menu that you can access from your Shopify integration settings within DIA, and it will just be called Master of Data. And within there will be three options. So you've got Shopify. That's where DIA will not modify any data in Shopify, and everything will be adjusted, made in Shopify and sent to DIA, and that will be your master of product data. You've then got DIA, which is where DIA will be your master product data, so Shopify will not be able to update DIA. And then you've also got source system, which is going back to how it worked before, and either or can manage, to be honest. So yeah, it's completely up to the user of what sort of decision you make. I don't think we really have a preference, because Shopify holds different information to what Dia can. Dia holds different information to what Shopify can. So it's quite an actually big decision, to be honest, if you're going to decide which is going to be your master of data. So yeah.
But I suppose without that availability there to choose, then sometimes with no choices, no decision made, and no real process.
Exactly.
So then you get a mishmash of people updating. So I suppose if you do choose as a business that this is the one source that we want to use all the time, then it eliminates that error or even that decision point for some businesses that go through it. So interesting. Okay. Co-manufacturing bill of materials alternative.
Yes.
Yeah, co-manufacture again. Bill of material is always interesting. So yeah, let's get stuck into this one.
Yeah, so again, it keeps coming up. It's a feature in a lot of Dia's releases at the moment, and although it's actually called co-manufacturing BOM Alternative, it actually has nothing to do with bill of materials, this release. So what this release is, it gives people a different option. So what we're finding is a lot of people do outsourced operations and outsourced manufacturing, but they're not a production business, and they don't know what a bill of materials is, and they don't want track bill of materials and track, the in-depth nature of a production BOM. So what Dia have done is they now allow you to allocate inventory write-offs via the expense allocation function. We've got a video on our YouTube channel about how that works, and basically it's where you can link transactions to one another to get a better landed cost. So how this links to co-manufacturing is that rather than having to do a co-manufacturing BOM and follow that long process, is that you can create a purchase order for your finished good, what you're going to receive off your co-manufacturer. You can then create an inventory write-off or adjustment for the stock that you've sent to them, and then you can link that write-off's cost to the purchase order. So when that purchase order is receipted into stock, you not only have the cost of what you've paid for the finished item, but also the cost of the items that you've written off. So you've got a full landed cost basically, and you don't have to worry about production, transfers, all of that. It's just nice and simple. So there's still definitely room. Co-manufacturing BOMs still should be used for the majority of businesses, but if you're maybe a wholesaler and you just have a certain thing that gets done outside, this might be the route for you.
Yeah. Okay. So again, another option for those co-manufacturing scenarios. And again, I still think like this is a growing area, isn't it, for the product? So there's going to be more and more scenarios. So it's good to see again that there's some movement in this area and some improvement. So okay, excellent. Bit of a mention, really. We always like to talk about some new integrations, like we had Fair come in last year and a couple of others. So yeah, Walmart, obviously very US centric type of integration, but do you want to give us a bit of a flavor of this?
Yeah, so Walmart integration is something that's been recently added to Dia. It's quite a new integration, and doing a bit of a research on it, it seems like it's not a full working stable integration that has all of the features of what you might need. And to be honest, we haven't actually worked with the Walmart integration yet, so we don't have the full details on how it actually works. And it is from their documentation still in progress, but from my understanding, it saves you having to go down the route of an EDI or using a third-party application such as Cart Rover. So Dia now natively integrates with it. It allows you to download products and map them to your products that exist in Dia, so your SKUs mapping, because Walmart will probably use different product codes to what you have in Dia potentially. And it also allows you to download orders from Walmart, process them in Dia, and update them back to Walmart itself. So essentially, it just saves you having to go down a different route. I imagine they're going to add much more functionality to it, but for now, it allows you to download products, download orders, and update them back to Walmart. So big for our US customers.
I think as well, it's the element in there of these integrations are their first iteration. So for anyone watching this who's got a Walmart interest, it's like test these things before you jump in if you've already got a solution, and just make sure they're at the maturity level you need. But again, it's good movement from the product to be starting to think about these types of integrations. So cool. Upcoming releases. So we've seen quite a few release notes coming through. We've had some liaison with Dia as well around what's coming through. So yeah, do you want to get stuck into some of these?
Yeah, so we've had a release notification this morning, actually. So these are getting updated on the 12th of March, which is the Sunday. So these are the ones that they've announced that are going to be updated. There may be a couple of others. They sometimes sneak a few in there. We don't have full information on how these are actually going to work yet, but it's just really to give everyone a bit of a heads up and talk a little bit about them. So harmonization code and country of origin been around for years now for export purposes, and needing to put this on documentation like commercial invoices, and we've always had to use product additional attributes, and the downside of that is you could be 3 or 4 fields down before you've even started just because of export. So now there's going to be default fields on the product, hopefully, of where you can put that information. Benefit of that is hopefully they're available on more reports, so you can then pull those through, because sometimes additional attributes don't always pull through. So that's my hope for that release, and it's a bit more intuitive. If you're picking up the system for the first time, you're not panicking of, oh, where's would I put my country of origin? It's a field now, rather than having to worry about custom fields and bits like that.
Okay.
Set priority. This is one that we're really excited about. This was actually requested by one of our clients that were having a look at the production module, and they came from a system where it allowed them to traffic light their orders on their scheduler, so they could see, okay, what's a priority, what do we need to get out, what's low priority, and it was quite difficult to do that, to be honest, in the production scheduler. So we raised it to DIA, and that's hopefully getting released this weekend. We don't know what it looks like yet, but we're hopeful for it. But essentially, it's the ability to assign priority levels to your production orders. So in the scheduler, you can view those a little bit better. And also, if you're giving that view to your shop floor, they can actually have more visualization. What's a priority? And I think that's really important for manufacturers who are busy, because things will change all the time, right? So it's a really good release.
Yeah, it's definitely helps with the communication of priorities and changing priorities, especially if it's mainly verbal, and one person gets it, then it goes through a chain of people to get to the person who's actually working on the job. So that'd be good to see. Yeah, looking forward to see how that looks when it arrives. Yeah,
because what a lot of our clients are doing recently is they're giving their warehouses and shop floors and production areas more visualization and visibility on what's actually going on in the background. So something that we see all the time is people have big TV screens with the production schedule on, and people can actually see their production schedule, whereas originally it was quite mundane and it's quite hard to actually view. But whereas with hopefully a traffic light system and a priority level, it gives people that ability to look up and go, okay, that's the priority, we need to get that one done this morning, let's move it around. So it's really good. It's really good.
Yeah, well, let's see how it lands, and we'll go from there.
Yep. Filter by awaiting approval. This one's been required for quite a while, to be honest. So DIA obviously has an approval system whereby if you only have a certain level of permissions, you raise a sales order, it needs to go to approval. Raise a purchase order, it needs to go to approval. Previously, you'd have to have a reminder in your notifications tab to say these are your orders that need approval. But now within the sales and purchases screen, you'll have your different statuses where you'd normally filter by awaiting fulfillment, ready to pick, and you can filter there orders that aren't approved. So if someone chases up on something, you can quickly see, okay, it hasn't been approved yet, and it gives you just more visibility again across the system, which is
it's that type of segmentation again, isn't it? There's a lot of data in systems in general. So if you can refine what you're looking at, it's always going to be useful. So excellent.
Absolutely. And then the final one we're really excited about. We put this request into DIA, and we've been working quite closely with Ship Theory, and previously Ship Theory was quite difficult to use with DIA integration, and it actually worked for certain businesses because they process package by package. The limitation was that you weren't able to send orders in bulk across to Ship Theory for processing. You'd have to go into the order, click ship, it goes next order, and so forth. Whereas now, hopefully, we don't have any other information, but hopefully you can do that in bulk and send that across. And that was a real big limiting factor to using Ship Theory. And it's such a great application with all the automations and things like that. So hopefully this is a release that really makes the two apps work together really well. And we're really looking forward to that one, actually.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of what we've talked about today, some of the new stuff that's coming in, like obviously got the visibility things like the scheduler, but a lot of it has been like, less clicks, easier to actually process, which is always good, right? Being more efficient. So I think that's good in terms of what we're seeing from the products at the moment, that sort of efficiency move. And like you say, if you've got a lot of orders and then you've got to go into each individual order and click an individual movement into ship theory, then that you'll always be thinking, surely we could do this in a better way. So
hopefully
good. Go on, Cal.
Sorry, Matt. And hopefully we'll have more information in the next video. But because of the automations that you can set up in Ship Theory, it actually severely reduces clicks, because you can set up automations in Ship Theory whereby it's like, over X weight, go to this provider, over this, you go to that provider. So you're literally, hopefully, just clicking orders, sending them. Ship Theory's automations then looking through all of those and dispersing them, and you're just printing your labels. So it's actually severely less clicks. So
it's that criteria based rules, isn't it? If you can get that and you can program it, then again, like you say, that does again reduce a lot more of the work after once it goes into Ship Theory. So okay, cool. Well, I think that's been pretty interesting overview. For anyone who's not seen this before and maybe didn't miss start, my name is Matt Flanagan. I'm the MD, and there's Callum, ERP specialist. And we tend to try and do these. We want to try and do them at least every month, but it sort of goes into 6-8 weeks, to be perfectly honest, when we get through it. But we'll try and do them a little bit more. For anyone who's just watching this or has some queries, questions, there's a couple of things. We've got the YouTube channel, which I think we put another half a dozen videos on last week around some of the certain functionality, stock takes, and emailing out when I was looking last week. So some of the team have done those, so you can go and subscribe to that. We're pretty active on there. We've also got a Dear Users Facebook group, which you can go and join. That's got over 200 people in there, and that's growing quite nicely. And you can always go to our website. So got any of those questions, anything you're thinking about, or you think about moving to Dear, or you've got Dear and want to improve how it works, then that's the type of projects that we like to help with. So for now, thanks for your input, Cal.
No problem.
Very informative as normal. And for those of you watching, thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Yep. Thank you, everyone.